In this parsha, we have Moshe Rabbeinu benching the Yidden and saying to them, Hashem Elokei Seichem, Hashem the God of your fathers, Yosef Aleichem, Kochem Elef Pamim, Hashem should increase you, should multiply you 1,000-fold of what you are now. V'yivorech eschem kasher diber lochem, and bless you as he had spoken to you. Rashi comments, what are these extra words? After saying already, Hashem should bless you and should multiply you 1,000 times of what you are now. What are these extra words saying that V'yivorech eschem, he should bless you as he has spoken to you? This is because the Yidden had said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, you're giving a certain limit to our brachos. Hashem had promised to Avraham Avinu already, Asherim Yuchal Ishlim is that the Yidden are going to be such numbers that we won't be able to count. And you're now saying 1,000 times. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, that's my bracha, but Hashem will give you kasher dibur lachem, whatever he promised you. The Rebbe says that the source of this Rashi is in the Sifri and in Medrash, with some differences, some changes. And Sifri and the Medrash also say the same idea, that the Yidden complained to Moshe Rabbeinu, why are you putting a limit on our brachos when Hashem told us already we're going to be like the stars of the heaven, the sand of the earth, etc., etc. Now, simply what Rashi and the Medrash are trying to say is that the Yidden were arguing that Hashem had given us a bracha to be in an unlimited way. Why are you putting a certain cap, a certain limit, only 1,000 times as much? But the Rebbe says the question is, number one, why is Rashi starting with a question, as the question is on the pasuk? Why does it need to say V'yivorech eschem kasher diber lochem? After already giving them a bracha, why is he now saying, and Hashem should bless you like he told you? Why doesn't Rashi just start off with a complaint that the Yidden have? That is, of why is he putting a cap and a limit on the bracha when Hashem has given already an unlimited bracha? And also to explain why isn't this a contradiction to Hashem's bracha? Why is Rashi starting with a question on the pasuk? Why does it say V'yivorech eschem kasher diber lachem? Also, why is Rashi bringing this pasuk? Asherim yuchal ishlim nois. If a person will be able to count the Yidden, which is what Hashem says to Moshe to Avraham Avinu, rather than bringing what the way the Medrash puts it, the beginning of that pasuk, that the Yidden will be ka'afar ha'oretz, or the other pasuk kechoich ve'ashamayim. The Rebbe also asks, if Rashi is only coming to explain the words elef pa'amim, that limit of 1,000 times, why, versus the bligvul of Hashem, why is Rashi also quoting from the words, the words from the pasuk, Yosef aleichem kochem? In addition to all of this, says the Rebbe, the main question is really, what is Moshe Rabbeinu's bracha even adding to Hashem's bracha? If Hashem gives already a bracha of bligvul, of unlimited, seemingly giving a bracha of 1,000 times seemingly is completely insignificant. What is even the point of Moshe Rabbeinu's bracha? Now, there are some Mefarshim that want to answer that Hashem's bracha is Hashem's bracha is conditional on Torah and mitzvahs, whereas Moshe Rabbeinu, although a more limited bracha, but it's unconditional, or that Hashem's bracha is la'asid lavoi, and Moshe Rabbeinu's bracha is bizman hazeh. The Rebbe says in the Medrashim it would be a little bit easier to fit in this pshat, but in Rashi seemingly there's no hint at all to this. All Rashi says is that Moshe Rabbeinu says, this is my bracha, but Hashem will give you whatever he promised you. So the Rebbe says the explanation goes as follows. In truth is that there's no real question of why Moshe Rabbeinu seems to be limiting the bracha. Moshe Rabbeinu said 1,000 times, if Hashem said bligvul, because ultimately a person, as great as he may be, he's still limited and finite. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to express his bracha in some sort of limited form. And in truth, even Hashem's bracha didn't really truly mean completely, absolutely infinite and unlimited. But rather, when Hashem says, Kechoich ve'ashamayim, or kachoy layom, and asher lo yisafar, all what it really means is there's a very, very big and large number. In other words, it's going to be so many that it's very, very difficult to count. Now, according to the Medrash and Sifri, the argument of the Yidden was that Hashem has given a number, kechoich ve'ashamayim, or kachoy layom, which is truly an unbelievable and unfathomable type of number. And you, Moshe Rabbeinu, are giving us a smaller number. You're just saying 1,000 times as much. But we said Rashi wasn't bothered by this question. In Pshut Shemikra, this wasn't such a question. Why not? Because even the 1,000 times that Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking about is also a huge, vast number, as we'll soon discuss. And therefore Rashi wasn't really bothered by this. How does Moshe Rabbeinu's number fit with Hashem's number? Because we're both speaking about limited and finite numbers, and there isn't really such a big difference between them. And therefore Rashi says a different question. Rashi is saying, once Moshe Rabbeinu said already you're going to be 1,000 times as much, which as we'll soon see is a tremendous bracha, why does it then need to say, V'yivarich eschem kasher diber lochem? That's what's bothering Rashi. And obviously, there's something else going on in the pasuk, some other argument that the Yidden have for which Moshe Rabbeinu is responding to. And the Rebbe explains. Let's look at the numbers of Yidden and what brachas was speaking about. The Yidden between the ages of 20 and 60 number 600,000. If we go ahead and we count all of those that are under 20 and over 60, including also the women and little children, we're speaking about at least 2 million people. When Moshe Rabbeinu comes along and benches them and says you should be 1,000 times of what you are right now, we're speaking about at least 2 billion people. So now, it's very difficult to say that the Yidden are complaining, Hashem said we're going to be so many, and you're saying only 2 billion people. Because remember, even when Hashem said you're going to be so many, it was also not completely unlimited. Because remember, we're speaking about a finite place on earth where the Yidden have to be able to fit, and every Yid has to take up a certain amount of space, and there's no way that they're going to fit on earth if we're speaking about something completely unlimited, or in fact, even as many as the stars and the sand, even that has to be only a borrowed term and only a euphemism. So therefore, when the Eibishter says you're going to be k'kroich ve'ashamayim, or k'choil asher al sfas hayom, or that you're not going to be able to be counted, we understand that what it means is you're just so many that it's not a usual way to be counting that at all. So when Moshe Rabbeinu comes along and says you're going to be, as we said, at least 2 billion people, the Yidden are not really going to complain, oh, you're giving us a smaller number than Hashem gave us. But at the end of the day, there is something going on in our pasuk. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, after saying Elef Pamim, Moshe Rabbeinu does say, Hashem will bless you as He has told you. So therefore, the time of the Yidden really was that Hashem spoke in terms without any numbers. In other words, just going to be such vast numbers that you won't count. Why are you, Moshe Rabbeinu, putting some sort of number into the equation, into the bracha? And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu says, Zu Mishali, but the Eibishter will bless you kasher diber lochem. That means that of course Hashem is going to give you the brachas that He told you. But since it's coming through my mouth, through a finite human being, it is going to be expressed with a certain limitation. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu is looking at the Yidden the way they are right now, and he's expressing it with a certain number, elef pa'amim, 1,000 times what you are right now. Hashem, who is completely unlimited, and sees the Yidden in that way, of course, could also give the Yidden a bracha in a way, asher yuchal ishlimna, is that they won't be able to be counted and all. In other words, like this, just to summarize and to clarify, according to the Medrash and the Sifri, we're also speaking about limited numbers, both in what Hashem is giving and what Moshe Rabbeinu is giving. But we're speaking about vastly different numbers. Hashem was benching the Yidden, something more similar to Koich ve'ashamayim and Afar. It's a tremendously, unbelievably great number, which we don't even speak about in numbers. Moshe Rabbeinu said 1,000 times as much, which is 2 billion people, but at least somewhere still within the realm of numbers. So it's a much smaller amount than what Hashem said. And that was the argument, according to the Medrash and Sifri, what the Yidden said to Moshe Rabbeinu. According to Rashi, the argument's a different one. Not necessarily is Moshe Rabbeinu saying a different amount than Hashem. Hashem said that you won't be able to be counted. Moshe Rabbeinu is also giving this unbelievably great number, but the argument of the Yidden is why we even speaking in the term of numbers, if Hashem was speaking not about numbers. In other words, why are we suddenly entering into this area of numbers? And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, look, because I'm a human being, I speak in the term of numbers, but it's still going to be the same bracha that Hashem promised you. It's just coming through my mouth in this particular way. The Rebbe connects this with something that the Arizal says. The Arizal says that on this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu says, this is my bracha, but Hashem will give you His bracha, says the Arizal that the name Moshe is the same gematria as Hashem's name, Kel, Aleph, Lamed, and Shin Daled Yud, both equaling 345. But if you write out that word, Kel Shaka, which what's called a Milui, So that means the Aleph you would spell Aleph Lamed Fei. The Lamed you would spell Lamed Mem Daled. And so too with the name Shin Daled Yud. Altogether that would equal 999. Together with what's called a koilel, putting one more for all of it together, equals 1,000. Says the Arizal, this is what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. My darga is connected with the level of Elef, or Aleph, which is the darga, according to Kabbalah, the darga of Bina. That's what I could give. Whereas Hashem is going to give you from a much higher level, from the level of Chachma. And says the Rebbe, the way this fits with what we were speaking about is, because on the level of Chachma, we know there's something called Oiros and Kalim. Oiros is the infinite light. Kali is already something that's limiting it to a certain extent. In the level of Chachma, the Kalim are not even being felt. In other words, what's mainly felt is just the spiritual energy, the godly energy. This is the way it's coming, so to speak, from Hashem. In other words, we're not even speaking about numbers. Moshe Rabbeinu, which is already on the level of Bina, he says, Yosef Aleichem Kachem, Elef Pamim, Elef, the level of Bina. In other words, it's technically the same bracha, but the way it's already felt within a finite world, a place where you can already feel a certain type of keli and a certain type of limitation. Says the Rebbe, of course, through learning Pnimiyus HaTorah and the way it fits with Pshut Shel Mikra, will be Zoichet at the time immediately when we'll have the Isgalus of Mashiach with all the secrets of the Torah, take it from Yad Mamish.